Are you looking for a classic design for your home that won't look dated in the future? Stay tuned as I go through some tips on how you can make sure that you have a classic, timeless design for your home that will stand the test of time. Hi guys, so recently I did a video on kitchen design trends for 2020. There's a couple of comments that came up that were around people favoring what they called a timeless design. And it kind of really got me thinking that although I really love talking about trends on this channel, I think it's really important to identify what is timeless design and what you can do to make sure that your house doesn't look dated in the future. I totally understand that sentiment. I 100% agree. And the truth is it's really difficult because, I mean, I worked at the Gap in like the mid 2000s, and back then, like, we thought bootcut jeans were like the thing, right? There was like, if you wore tapered, like you were like in the 90s. Styles have changed, things have changed. So it's really difficult to identify what is going to stand the test of time and what are different designs that are going to look dated in like 3, 5, 10 years. So that's why I really worked hard to come up with some tips for you guys so that you can make sure that the things you are selecting in your home are more likely to stand up for the long term. So tip number 1, you guys, is to use natural products in your home. So bringing in natural stone, wood, plants, cotton, things that are natural substances that have really stood the test of time. It's a lot of the man-made stuff that tends to look a little bit dated in time because natural stuff never goes out of style. So I had this idea for this video, you guys, while I was walking in a park not far from my house. And I was sitting there thinking, like, have you ever walked into a forest and thought like, ugh, this place is like looking really dated? Of course you haven't, because no one ever thinks that, because forests never look dated, because nature never looks dated. It is truly timeless because it's been around since the beginning of time. So keep that in mind when you're bringing things into your home. The more natural things that you use, the things that exist in nature, if you bring that into your home, it's more likely to make your place look timeless. So really work to try to bring those different fabrics and finishes and those different natural substances that exist in nature, try to use those into the home as much as possible. Yes, trends come and go. There's certain types of wood, light wood's in and then dark wood's in, and then certain plant. Bobby Burke's got his fiddle figs, but fiddle figs themselves are not a trend. They are a plant that exists in nature, and therefore it doesn't really matter when you bring it in because, to be honest, it's always in style. Tip number 2, you guys, is think about function first. So think about what the space is going to be used for. Think of like where people are going to have to, like different walkways, the space planning, like where everything is going to go in your space. What is it going to be used for? Make sure your kitchen is going to be used for entertaining, but also obviously for cooking. Make sure you have right seating in your living room to be able to encourage conversation. If you have art or you have a TV on the wall, make sure that it's hung at the right height. Here's a video where I talk about that. Just make sure that you think about the function of the space. So all of this matters in your space because if the function isn't working for you, you're gonna get tired of it very quickly. And that's, I think, what's really important in making your space feel timeless is you're going to feel like it's comfortable and it's relaxing and that you want to be there because functionally it's working for you. And that is something that never goes out of style. The third tip for creating a timeless space is less is more. Now, I'm not saying everybody needs to be a minimalist. In my interior design style video, I explained what a minimalist is. It's a design style. It's kind of a little bit of a different animal. But regardless, no matter who you are, there is always something that we can learn about sort of taking away pieces and taking away clutter. You make the space feel lighter, it feels more welcoming, it feels more airy, it feels just overall more comforting, and it gives you more negative space to rest your eyes on. Plus, there's also a super practical reason for having less decor pieces. That is that there's less things to change out should you ever change your mind. As you sort of change throughout your life, you're going to want to swap things out in your home. The less things you have, just practically speaking, the less things are going to look dated. So tip number 4, you guys, is to use neutral colors. So mostly I'm talking about black and white and gray. These colors are always in fashion because they go with everything. And that means that by creating sort of a neutral space, you kind of create a backdrop in which the rest of your layers of design can kind of work on top of. So when you have neutral colors, they tend not to go out of style as quickly as sort of the color of the moment. You can also go with other colors that tend to sort of stick around for a long time. So this can be colors like beige, cream, all the different family of off-whites, which, you know, I have a whole video on different, how to choose the white paint. There's a whole world around white paints, but even colors like navy, taupe, these are colors that tend to stick around for decades, and although maybe, you know, they might not necessarily be the most adventurous or the most creative or the crazy off-the-wall funky, you know, this is just, you know, I can't believe this was so inspired that you did this crazy taupe wall, like no one's ever said that. But it's going to stand the test of time. It's not going to look dated. You're not going to necessarily regret it in 5-10 years down the road. So if you really want to go for something a little bit more timeless, err on the side of neutrals. So although Benjamin Moore and Pantone, they always come out with their like colors of the year, which I'll probably end up covering on this channel, to be honest, because, you know, I still do like the trends. It's probably not going to be the types of colors that you're going to want to paint your walls, right? Those are kind of things for in the moment. They just sort of are really trendy for this particular period. Not something you're necessarily going to want to do in some of your permanent pieces in your home, like your walls or your furniture or whatever, but maybe save those for things like little decor pieces or pillows or things that you don't mind swapping out, you know, every year or two when you kind of get a little bit bored of them. Tip number 5, you guys, is to be mindful of technology. So I'm not going to tell you not to get on, you know, Amazon or Google, whatever. I'm not telling you that you shouldn't incorporate any technology into your home. I understand that is just kind of a huge trend right now, but be very conscious of the fact that technology looks dated. It moves at a much faster pace than nature does. You know, I've talked a little bit in the earlier parts of the video about sticking with natural colors, natural fabrics, bring nature into the home. Okay, the opposite of that is technology. So when you're using technology and you're really bringing it into your home, just be very mindful that it will look dated. So we've all been to a hotel and we've all seen the little iPod cradle on the wall, which I'm sure was super trendy back in 2004, where you could, you know, just waiting for you to play some Avril Lavigne. But the truth is now in 2020, there's nothing a little bit more dated than an iPod holder on the wall, right? So if you're bringing that into your own home, you have to be very careful. So practically, what do? Well, I would say be mindful of hiding things like cords. If you do bring in something like a sound system, make sure, like, is it something that can be covered up? Is it something that can be like sort of a little bit more subtle? It's in kind of the corners of your room. That's maybe not like this, you know, big giant surround sound system that's probably, you know, in 2-3 years when the technology moves very quickly, it's maybe going to look really dated. It can also include things like, I'm really wary of like faucets that have really bright lights shooting out of them. That might look really cool for, you know, 6 months, and then you might get sick of it and you might want to switch out and just get something really classic in chrome that you know is going to be awesome in 2 to 3 years. A really simple, clean faucet will probably last you a lot longer than something that, you know, shoots lasers out of it. So just be really careful of every time you're bringing technology in. I'm not saying don't do it, but if you do bring technology in, try to bring it in really subtle ways that's not going to necessarily, you know, clash with the rest of your design, especially in 3 to 5 years when it's inevitably going to look dated. Tip number 6, you guys, is to choose quality when you can. So listen, if you're new to my channel, like, just so you know, I'm not a person who is like, you've got to spend millions of dollars on some super, super crazy high-end renovation in order for your house to look good. I'm not that person. But if you can, really consider that quality items that you can really understand where the quality is coming from and like the craftsmanship, those will last you a lot longer. And it's not just the need to replace it, it's also that as it wears in, it'll oftentimes look better than some of the manufactured items that are, you know, mass market and sold at a big box store. Those are more likely to wear out as opposed to wearing in. And when you're buying really well constructed items, you're also oftentimes supporting organizations and people that really take the time and the care to really put into these quality products. So it kind of is better for you in the sense that it's going to stick around a lot longer, it's going to look better as it wears, and you're also supporting people that actually really truly care about what they're creating. And this doesn't necessarily mean you have to break the bank. You can go to secondhand stores, you can look at antiques, you can go to estate sales, or you can go to craft markets, you can go to Etsy, right? You can go online to Etsy and you can actually deal with the person who created the item. Because you're buying it directly from them, oftentimes it's not going to necessarily break the bank, but I think that's something you can really feel good about. And these tend to be areas that you're probably going to get more quality items that are going to last you a long time. So it's less likely to look worn out over time, which of course is always going to contribute to your place looking a lot more timeless. Tip number 7, you guys, is to choose subtlety when you can. So it's totally fine to take a look at sort of what patterns or what colors or what things are really trending at the moment, that could be fine. But oftentimes you're going to find that if things are a little bit more subtle with less contrast and maybe less detail, it's more likely to stand the test of time because it's going to sort of blend in with the rest of your design. So I find that rather than kind of choosing things that are really, have a big presence in their home, or they're like a permanent sort of or semi-permanent kind of big piece of furniture or something in this really cool, trendy color that you saw that's like super in at the moment, that may be more likely to look dated in time, and you're probably going to be better off if you sort of maybe incorporate those colors or patterns or textures or whatever, if you're able to incorporate those things in more subtle ways. So it's more likely to stay with you for a long period of time because it looks a little bit more classic, it's just a little bit more subtle, it's less kind of bold and in your face and trendy of the moment. Okay, tip number 8, you guys. So this is my last tip. This is choose the real thing rather than the imitation. So a good example right now for me is marble. Like, I have seen marble cell phone cases. There are marble press-on nails. There are marble laptop cases. There are marble rugs. There are marble pillows. And look, guys, I am not immune to it. Someone bought this for me for Christmas. It's a marble water bottle. So we have seen marble everywhere, and that's fine. Marble is very trendy, but marble itself, that is actually, the actual solid rock that comes from the earth, that is not trendy. That has been something that has been around since the beginning of time. So choosing the real thing that actually comes from the earth that you can put into like a side table is way less likely to look dated in time than if you choose kind of all these different effect things that come. Now again, as I said, I'm not immune to it, but I acknowledge that when those items are out, those are things that are going to look really trendy at the moment because, marble has been trending for a while, and that's fine, and people like it, and it's beautiful, and marble is gorgeous. I get that. But it's probably not something that's going to be around for a long time. Something like a marble coffee table, though, or a marble side table, real actual marble, that comes from the earth, that is something that is going to stand the test of time, that will always look beautiful. And even though the trends might come and go, marble itself, I still think is a great option. So if you can, I would choose something like that marble side table over a marble effect rug. That is more likely to look dated in a few years' time. By the way, this is not to say that trends are inherently bad. I think trends are great. I think trends are fun. I think it's like a really fun way just to see how kind of artists in this space are sort of pushing things in different areas, and people are taking risks and trying new things, and that's what catches on. And I think that's part of the fun. But if you're really looking for classic, timeless, I think you should sort of take into account some of these tips that I've given you in this video in your own home, and let me know in the comments, what do you think? Is there anything else that you think is really trendy and of the moment and probably not going to be around for much longer? Or are there things that you think are truly going to last the test of time? And please comment below and let me know what those things are. And of course, please subscribe if you want to see more great content. Thanks. Talk to you later. Bye.